One of the unfortunate aspects of Noni marketing that's been taking place for many years is that a great deal of misinformation has been put out, especially towards consumers. And this is a very unfortunate thing indeed. And this misinformation is with regards to the active compounds present in Noni fruit, what Noni is responsible for in terms of its activities, and even some illustrations called chromatograms, or sometimes referred to as a footprint. And the truth is that a chromatogram is only as good as the active compounds that it represents and the quantities of active compounds that it represents. And if a chromatogram or chromatograph is not showing anything that has activity or even anything that's identified or anything that's quantified, it really has no value whatsoever in the marketplace or in science for that matter. In this study, this is one of Hirazumi's studies, and it's titled An Immunomodulatory, that means immune system changing, polysaccharide-rich substance from the fruit juice of Morinda citrifolia, Noni, with anti-tumor activity. And these studies, by the way, were all conducted upon Hawaiian Noni. There were 5 or 6 of these publications altogether. This illustration actually shows a chromatograph of the active compounds in Noni and shows how they are identified. This is the specific active polysaccharide which has been found to have immune system stimulation and anti-cancer activity in the Noni fruit. Unfortunately, a lot of other people are still talking about compounds which in reality, in scientific terms, do not exist. And in this case, I'm talking about zeronine or prozeronine, which in actuality do not appear in any peer-reviewed, scientifically published literature. There is no structure, there's no quantification, no analysis that can be done to see if these compounds, if they exist, are present or are not present. What Hirazumi found was that these active polysaccharide compounds in Noni are not soluble in concentrated alcohol. They are, however, soluble in water. And this has profound implications for how Noni is to be processed to make an effective product. We'll give you a quick demonstration at this time. Here we have some Hawaiian Noni juice in this beaker. And to this juice, we will add some concentrated alcohol. And you will see the alcohol insoluble active polysaccharides actually precipitate out right before your eyes. On the bottom here, you can see the active polysaccharide compounds have actually precipitated out of solution. And those are themselves the active compounds that are found in the Noni fruit. Another marketing practice that I feel is very misleading is the idea that's been put forth that Hawaiian soils, due to their volcanic activity, are high in lead. And that simply is not true. This can be corroborated with studies by the University of Hawaii, Department of Agronomy and Soil Science, which clearly shows that lead, or any other heavy metal for that matter, is just not there in any appreciable quantity. In fact, it's really no different, not significantly different from other soils that are commonly found. So it simply is not true. It is not a problem here. A lot of agricultural commodities like ginger and papayas come here from the Big Island and are grown in the same area where the Noni grows, and there has never been a concern regarding any levels of lead or any other such substances. So I think we can definitely put that to rest once and for all. In fact, it's clearly just the opposite. If you look at the size of these fruits, and these fruits are far larger than the fruits you normally find in other South Pacific islands, where the Noni is grown on highly weathered and highly leached soils, which are generally nutrient and mineral poor. In comparison, these are very large fruits that we find here on the Big Island, on the southern part of the Big Island, where the volcano is active, where the fresh lava is being produced, and this is where the Noni grows. The Noni actually prefers to grow on the freshest lava, the most mineral-rich substances that are available, that have just poured forth, as it were, directly from the earth. There's no no weathering, no plant life has taken off any of the nutrients. It's absolutely and completely fresh. And so the noni does very well, it's very healthy, and the fruits itself are very high in mineral content. Another point of distinction is that a lot of the noni grown in the South Pacific Islands is grown on plantations. That is, it's farmed. So you never really know what may be added to the soil, what kind of chemicals may be there, if it might have been sprayed. In this case, the Hawaiian Islands are very highly isolated. I think we're 2,500 miles from the nearest landmass. The air is very clean, the rainwater is very clean, and these wildcrafted plants, of course, are never sprayed with anything. They're never fertilized with anything. It's all organic in the purest sense of the word, coming directly from nature, right from these fresh lava flows. What we find on other high islands in the Pacific is that the soils are very, very highly weathered. That means that they've been exposed to the elements for thousands of years. They've been exposed to the rain, leaching out the minerals for thousands of years. And what gets left behind are the oxides of iron and aluminum. That's why you may notice, if you've ever been to any of these South Pacific nations, that the soils are generally very red or very yellow. All that's left is aluminum oxide or iron oxide. Most of the other minerals like iron, magnesium, manganese, calcium are all gone.
The Puna coast and the south coast of the island of Hawaii, there's very little concern with metal contamination from industrial contributions nor from the rock itself. Lead is generally around 0 parts per million. The lava rocks of Hawaii are average to low in metal content. There's just very little heavy metal concern here in Hawaii. Of course, there are concerns in some parts of the South Pacific with background 90 strontium and 137 cesium with respect to atomic testing. Some islands are completely banned for human habitation because of radionuclides from atomic fallout. Tahiti is a much older island than the Puna district of Hawaii. Crops growing on older soils down in Tahiti would be lower in calcium, magnesium, potassium than similar crops growing on Hawaii on younger soils. The total amounts of nutrients here in Hawaii are very high, and certain plants like Noni seem to have evolved mechanisms to extract high amounts of total calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, etc. in the rock. It's interesting because a lot of times when we've analyzed plants that are able to do well on the lava rock, their nutrient levels are much higher than plants growing on much older, weathered, highly leached soil. Because in a highly leached soil, the nutrients just aren't there. They've been washed away. In the case of the rock, the total amounts of nutrients are very high. The mycorrhizal associations that have evolved with the plant, the fungi that benefits plant nutrient uptake, seems to facilitate the uptake of nutrients that are essential for the plants. The mycorrhizae actually help through their mechanisms of increasing uptake of beneficial nutrients, and laboratory studies have shown that mycorrhizally inoculated plants seem to have greater tolerances to heavy metals if they were present.
With Noni, one thing that we've noticed is that it actually doesn't like growing in soil situations. It tends to grow a lot better on the rock. The plants are not as vigorous, even if it's fertilized, even if it's taken care of properly. The plants are just not as happy as we tend to see them when they're down growing right in that lava rock. And in fact, that is where Noni is normally found. You generally find it close to the ocean on this exposed lava rock and the coastline of the island. And of course, Tahiti being an older island, it's all this weathered soil. No matter how it's grown, I don't think that it could be comparable to Noni that's grown on these fresh, rocky types of surfaces. I think that's really what the plant has evolved to be adapted for, the use of its mycorrhizal relationships in the roots.